Greetings, student. My name is Umgungundlovu, your facilitator for NCV Level 2 Life Orientation. Today's lesson, it's about learning skills, which is under topic number 2. Just a brief description of what learning skills are. Learning skills involve strategies or ways you can use to learn, as well understand and recall what you have learned easier. So the learning outcomes or the lessons outcomes of today's lessons are, we are going to be looking at how our brain works when we learn, reason we may forget what we have learned or learn material. We are also going to be looking at multiple intelligences. And lastly, your study plan or the study plan. Now, before we can understand how our brain works, let us first understand how our brain is divided. Basically, our brain is divided into two parts. The first part is on the right-hand side of our brain, and that part is called the artistic part. It is that part of our brain that learns as well understands easier by viewing pictures, diagrams, colors, or mind map. So you learn or understand easily by simply viewing at the pictures. You can simply understand anything that's in the form of pictures, diagrams, etc. These parts of our brain tend to think creatively or adventurously. And these parts of our brain tend to link things all together randomly or together. Now, looking at the second part of our brain, which is on the left-hand side, this part of our brain is called the scientific or structured part. It is that part of our brain that is good with numbers, anything relating to numbers, like in math or in accounting. As well, it is good with fact or anything that has to do with science. And this part of our brain, it's good with academic activities, anything relating to schoolwork. It is also good with list as well analysis. The diagram below make it easier for us to understand how our brain is basically divided. As you may see, there is a left-hand side of our brain as well the right-hand side of our brain. As I've mentioned earlier, the left-hand side of our brain, it is that part of our brain that is good with thinking in words, sequencing, linear thinking, anything that has to do with mathematics or numbers, fact as well, logic. That is that part which is on the left-hand side of our brain. Now, looking at the right-hand side of our brain, this part of our brain, it's good with feeling, visualization, imagination, intuition, rhythm, holistic thinking, and anything that's referred to or that has to deal with art. So in understanding how our brain works, the information in our brain enters in our memory. The memory, which is the brain filing system, through our 5 senses. So basically, information in our brain enters to the memory through our 5 senses, which is the sense of sight, sense of hearing, sense of taste, touch, as well smell. So anything that we may see with our own eyes, it can be communicated to our brain, like the pictures, which refer to sense of sight. And anything that we can listen or hear can also be directly communicated to our brain, like listening to lecturers' explanations. As well, anything that we may taste with our own tongue, like tasting an ice cream, can also be linked or communicated directly to our brain. And anything that we may feel or touch with our own hand can be also communicated to our brain. Like you may feel that you are holding a pen now. And lastly, sense of smell. Anything that you may smell with our own nose can also be linked or communicated to our brain. So that's how information enters in the memory, which is the brain filing system, through our 5 senses. Then the information, it is now stored in our short-term memory, then processed to the long-term memory, where it can be retrieved or recalled when it is needed. Like for an example, during exams or when studying for a test. So basically, that's how our brains work. The information enters in the memory, then it is stored from the short-term memory to the long-term memory. Then we can retrieve or recall that particular information when it is needed, like for an example, during exam time. So basically, that's how our brain works. Now, looking at the reason that can contribute to forgetting what we have learned. The first reason, there might be a retrieval failure, where you cannot recall information at all, either because you are not practicing or rehearsing what you have learned on time. Then the brain tends to struggle to remember it. Like for an example, in class, you were doing an exercise about exponents in math. Then you were given a homework to practice. Then at home you didn't practice. Then on the next lesson the following day, it's become difficult for you to understand what you have learned previously, because you don't practice or rehearse it. The second reason that can contribute to us or we forgetting what we have learned, there might be interference, where information will be mixed up, where old information will be mixed up with the new information, which can result in misunderstanding or interference in our brain. But this can be avoided by trying to summarize or group new information all together, then rehearse or practice it, and also do the same thing with the old information. The third reason that can contribute to us or we failing to remember what we have learned, there might be a failure to store, where the information don't remain in our memory at all. This can be caused by the study techniques that we might be using when we are studying. Like, instead of trying to understanding something, you are cramming it. But instead of cramming it or cramming something, you may use the following method. The first one is the acronym mnemonics, where you will be abbreviating words so that it can be easier for you to understand as well, to recall them. You can also use the phrase mnemonics by grouping words together to form one conceptual unit, or rhyming mnemonics by putting what you have learned in the form of a poem or rapping it so that it can be easier recalled, or you will be enjoying to learn it. And lastly, visual or image mnemonics, where you will use or put what you have learned in the form of diagrams or use pictures or images to recall easily what you have learned. Like in a communication process diagram, it can be easier for you to know how the message is being conveyed from the sender to the receiver. As the sender is the initiator or the starting point of the message, which the message goes to the receiver who interprets and gives feedback to the sender. So basically, that's how the message is being conveyed from the sender to the receiver. So it's easier for you to understand this if it's in form of a diagram format. And lastly, or the last reason that can contribute to what us or we forgetting what you have learned, it can be caused by motivated forgetting, where you don't want to remember anything that you have learned, maybe because of the circumstances or experiences or either events that you have been through in your life, like you are stressing about something or being traumatized about something. You may forget what you have learned because of the circumstances or a situation that you've been through. But you can avoid this by remaining focused, motivated in order for you to learn easier and to reach what you want to achieve. So basically, those are the reasons that can contribute toward us forgetting what we have learned. Now, looking at multiple intelligences. Basically, multiple intelligence are the strategies a person can use to be able to learn as well understand easier. Like some person can learn as well understand easier by using one verbal or linguistic intelligence, which involves the ability to use language to present your own ideas, express your feelings, or to persuade others. It's also involved finding the right word to express what you mean. So students with this kind of intelligence, they learn and understand easier by listening what is being taught to them. There's also logical or mathematical intelligence, which involves logical thinking and the ability to handle mathematical problems. Learners with this kind of intelligence, they learn as well understand effectively by quantifying things, making hypotheses, as well provoking them. There's also visual or spatial intelligence, which refer to creating and interpreting visual image, thinking in three dimensions, or visualizing the world in 3D. So learners with this kind of intelligence, they learn effectively, but by what they can see with their own eyes, like the images or any visuals. And 40, there is a bodily or kinesthetic intelligence, which refer to feeling as well expressing things physically or doing hands-on activities, as well coordinating your mind with your own body. So learners with this kind of intelligence, they learn as well understand easier by doing hands-on activities like artwork or any practical activities. And there's also musical or rhythmic intelligence, which involves discerning sounds, their pitch, tone, and rhythm, and their timbre. So learners with this kind of intelligence, they learn as well understand effectively through musical themes, as well creating a feeling of rhythm to express mood and analyzing music themes. And there's also intrapersonal intelligence. Intra, this refers to within yourself. So learners with this kind of intelligence, they learn as well understand effectively through understanding information within themselves, like understanding your own interior thoughts, as well feelings in a very clear way. And lastly, there is an interpersonal intelligence, which refers to understanding the feeling, needs, and purpose of others, as well as sensing people's feelings and motive. So learners with this kind of intelligence, they learn as well understand information well through sharing it with others. Now, looking at your study plan, which is your preferred technique or strategy that you can use to study effectively, or strategy that you can use when you are studying. Some learners may prefer to study in groups where they will be sharing information with others. There might be, and there are advantages of studying in groups. When you are studying in groups, you tend to meet others and make new friends. You learn more and share more information with others. It expands your thinking and develop your creativity. You work as a team and assist each other and assist those who are struggling within your group, and it saves time, hence a lot of ideas are being generated within a limited time. But there might be also disadvantages for studying in groups, like, for an example, participation can be frustrating, as some may be active while others may be quiet. There might be a lot of disturbance since there might be many people in a group, and failure to meet deadline, as some individuals may be participative, some maybe not. Some strategies or techniques that you can also use when you are studying: you can summarize your notes so that they can be easily understood, as well easily recalled. You can also make mind maps or posters of what you are going to be studying. Or you can take notes in class, file them neatly, so that it will be easier for you to rehearse, as well practice them, maybe during exams or test times. You can also read questions aloud, or you can choose a quiet place to study where there will be no disturbance. And lastly, you can draw a study timetable which will enable you of the study time that you have to utilize when you are studying for a particular subject. So those were the techniques that can work well when you are studying. So on today's lessons, we have learned that, or we have touched on how our brain works as the information enters, then it is stored and it is retrieved from our memory. Basically, we have learned how our brain works since from the point it enters information, from the point it is stored information, and how information it is retrieved in our memory, and those reasons that can contribute toward us forgetting what we have learned, like information may be mixed up, as well those techniques that can work well or that we can use to learn as well to understand easier when we are studying. So, the types of questions that you may encounter under these topics, you have to be able to describe the multiple intelligence that can work well for you or for yourself. And also, you have to discuss the reasons that can contribute to what you forgetting what you have learned. And lastly, the advantages as well, the disadvantages of studying in groups. So, as a student, it is important to know as well, to understand which strategy that work well for you when you are learning, as well when you have learned something, and how or which strategy you can use to recall what you have learned easier. There are many strategies that you can use when you are studying or when you are learning. Like you can study in groups. This can work well because you can generate many ideas with others. And it can be easier for you to share as well, to get others' views as well, opinion, which can be beneficial for you. So it is important to know or to develop which strategy you can use to easily understand what you are learning. And try not to memorize or to cram notes, but rather understand what you are learning by using different kinds of mnemonics, such as phrase mnemonics, where you will be grouping words all together to form one word, or rhyming mnemonics, by putting all what you have learned in the form of a poem, or in the form of a song, or rapping it in a song, so that it will be easier for you to recall it. So it is important to discover the type of strategy that you will use as a student to learn as well to understand effectively, and try to practice what you have learned in class on time, so that there won't be misunderstanding or interference of information in our brain. Thank you.